seen many critics of BioWare's new game, Dragon Age the Veilguard. In their videos, they mention issues they see from the trailers and other gameplay footage. These complaints range from visual art design all the way to the game's character creator. So let's talk about some of these grievances. One of the many things that you'll see a lot of the other YouTubers complain about is the game's art direction. They'll often complain that the game looks cartoony or the characters look very smooth, which, to be honest, I have to completely agree. The enemies look really bad. The characters look super cartoony, but that was never really like a thing that I really focused in on when I was playing through Dragon Age. Like, yeah, I noticed that a character looked cool or whatever. Like, especially like the original Canari's look. If I could choose, I'd rather have the game look more like Dragon Age 2. But then again, I never really focused on character design. Like, that's not, when I'm playing through a game, like, that's like not the really thing I'm like focusing in on. I actually rather hope that they focused more on making the environments feel more vibrant. I know, especially in Dragon Age 1 and 2, I didn't finish Inquisition, but in those two games, a lot of the areas just don't really seem really unique in a sense. I know Dragon Age 2's was actually copy and pasted, and it all feels really gray, and in Origins it's all brown. I think if you're not into cartoony things, like if you're not into Fortnite, Overwatch, you don't like those things, you're probably gonna hate the art style. That all comes down to personal preference, to be honest. Another thing that people have been complaining about is a switch in tone, saying that the game has shifted more towards normal fantasy compared to the originals, which had more of a darker fantasy type feel to them. And I think this is more just stemmed from the game's art direction, because like I said, it's very cartoony. But I'd like to point out that there are still good dark fantasy games, like such as Hollow Knight, which is still really cartoony. An additional gripe that some players have is that combat has become less tactical and has shifted more into an action RPG. In my opinion, the combat mechanics from the Dragon Age series were never really a strong point for me. So in the older games, I would rather pick the companions that I felt I had the best connection through the story, then set their AI skills, aggressive, etc., and play like that way. And to be fair, every installment since Origins has kind of really lost that tactical CRPG type element to the combat system. Now, what I don't like about the new combat system is the fact that there's only going to be 2 companions instead of the 3. Not exactly sure why they ever even had to change it, and it definitely feels like they just were kind of doing a little bit too much there. I think it will remove the potential for more banter between your companions, but it is a pretty minor change, to be fair. So unfortunately, only 3 choices from Inquisition will matter in Veilguard. This is pretty frustrating to hear, and even though I didn't play through Inquisition because I found it boring, they should not be doing this. I don't think you should make players make choices and then say, well, only say these couple of choices actually matter. Like, what was the point of even making those 3 choices matter? You should, if you're gonna make one choice matter, then you should make at least half of the choices made in said game matter. And I don't think it's a really good direction for BioWare. Next up is the character creator. I don't resonate with this complaint at all. Like, I could honestly care less what my character looks like in my games, but I do know that a lot of players actually do really care about that, and they spend a lot of time working on it. And I know that people have been complaining that you are able to make your character, say, trans with breast removal surgery, because like he'll have like scars or whatever. And I say, if you don't like it, don't use it, of course, right? But then on the flip side of that, they don't allow for female characters to have big breasts or to have wide hips, which I find absolutely ridiculous. Like, if you're gonna allow one person to be represented, I guess why not allow for another type of person to be represented, right? And even if it's not really you just looking for your own self-representation, if I'm able to make a decision on what I like, if you're like, what's the point of allowing me to decide what my character's gonna look like if I'm going to be limited towards one point over another. And I just don't see what's the point of removing that said player freedom. And I just don't see what's the point of hindering a player's ability to express whatever that is they're trying to express through the character creator. Prominent complaint, which would be the open world exploration, or a lack of thereof. If you watched my Black Myth Wukong video, you would know I don't think having a massive open world makes a game better. It's more about the details and the space used. Plus, the Inquisition's open world sucks so much. It's common for people to tell other gamers to just run through this main story. And yeah, I don't see why you would spend all that time making a world that people aren't really going to even bother exploring it. So how can I still be optimistic for a game with so much wrong with it? Well, none of these critics actually address what actually got me hooked into the Dragon Age series, which is the writing. Will players be forced to make decisions that hover over the morally gray area, or will they have to make decisions that more or less are in the black and white, either sunshine and rainbows, good or bad? Will all the companions actually have some type of identity, or will they just allow themselves genders or race to define them? And I don't think anybody can tell how the game's writing is going to be until the full game actually gets released, or they have some type of early access to it. But let me know down in the comments, am I overvaluing the writing elements in this series? Or are gamers being too quick to hate?